Hey y'all. So, this video is going to be, I mean, like, bare, open, vulnerable Kaden. If you're looking for happy, jokey, shady Kaden, this probably isn't the video for you. But the idea for this video has been like gnawing at me. Like it's been something that has been like on my brain. I'll be just taking a shower. Like I really should make a video about this. I think it's important that, excuse me. I think it's important that all aspects of what it was like to be pregnant as a man are touched on. We see these stories, including mine, in the public eye about these pregnancies, and everybody's all smiles and oh my gosh, it's a pregnant man, and they get to have their baby, woo woo woo. And I wish I could say that it was all smiles for me, but that's not true. So this video is going to be about what it was really like to be a pregnant man. So, as everybody knows, I did not find out that I was pregnant until about 21 weeks, which is about 5 months. So there was no turning back. And this is one of the parts that gets most uncomfortable for people because, we're talking about the thought of abortion and things of that nature. I want it to be known that if I would have found out early enough, I absolutely would have gotten an abortion. I never wanted kids. The one thing that Elijah and I always agreed on is that we never wanted kids. Neither one of us wanted to have a child. So, you can imagine finding out at 5 months that you are pregnant as a man who literally just got top surgery. I got top surgery in March. I found out that I was pregnant, 5 months pregnant, in September. So, do the math. Yeah. If I would have found out in like a month, you probably wouldn't be watching this channel because you wouldn't give a fuck about me. I'm being honest. So finding out at 5 months, there was a lot of emotions. It was fear was one of the main ones. Definitely fear, shock. I don't remember ever being like explicitly happy. It was just more of like an acceptance, like, okay, this is happening. There's nothing we can do about it, so it's happening. Eventually, it turned into like excitement. Just like the thought of like, oh my God, I'm creating a life. Like I get to see a little me. I remember when I first found out, I told Elijah, like, you need to know that I'm about to quit my job. Like, I lived in like this fear. I was worried about like what it would be to walk the world as a pregnant man. Like, was I gonna get beat up? Like, was somebody gonna shoot me in the face? Like, these are very real worries, It wasn't far-fetched, especially in Muslim-ass fucking Philadelphia. I was really worried. I had a lot of regular customers. I was working at Sprint at the time. I had a lot of regular customers, and a lot of them were like Muslim, and I was stealth, and nobody knew. And it was just like, how do you navigate that? I had to deal with. So nobody expects a man to be pregnant. So I had to figure out how to explain to my management that I'd have to go to the bathroom a lot. standing for a long period of time wasn't necessarily a thing because my back was killing me, and like I'd be hungry a lot and like things of that nature. Like these are all things like that I didn't get to plan for, that I didn't even have time to like, oh, okay, well, soon you'll start showing in a few months. It was like, you're 5 months, you're already showing, and it's crunch time. We were living in a studio apartment. It was a nice studio apartment, and it was comfortable for us, but you can't, what were we gonna do? I had to tell, I went from basically being stealth to having to tell my management, my entire management team, that I was pregnant, my landlord, and basically the fucking world. Um, I really decided that I was gonna hide. Um, I told Elijah, I was like, I'm just gonna drop off the face of the planet and we're just gonna pop up with a baby. Um, and I sat and I thought about it, and I thought about how often we hide ourselves, and I thought about how I didn't transition to be in hiding. Um, and I'm not shading anyone who is stealth and doesn't want everybody to know their business, and that's absolutely your prerogative, and it's perfectly fine. But I know for me, I felt like I didn't jump out of a box, out of society's box, just to jump into another one. And I said to myself, besides like Thomas Beatty, who else was out there with sharing their stories, especially men of color, especially gay men of color. Um, all the stories you see are straight, usually white, trans men or whatever. So I was like, this could be a learning experience. I never started telling my story in hopes that I would go viral. That was never a thought. Literally never a thought. I just thought to myself, like, one, this might be really cool to look back on for myself. And two, I could tell people, show people what it's like what I'm going through. The thing is, I wasn't all the way honest with what I was feeling, my fears, my doubts, my insecurities, health wise, mentally, emotionally. I was scared. I was scared. It was really weird. It was really weird to look at myself and see this and then be pregnant. It was so weird to feel something moving inside of you. And it was hard to navigate life as a still passing man while pregnant. Nobody was getting up for me if I needed to sit. Nobody was wondering why I was like holding my stomach in pain, or why my back was killing me, or why I was like in this perpetual state of exhaustion. Nobody, like, and what I mean that by that is like, since I'm walking outside and all people see is this man with this beer belly. They just thought I had a big ass belly. There was nobody holding doors open. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's a certain way that society treats pregnant women. I got none of that. That was another battle. It was just like, I was invisible. I was invisible. So I was going through this stuff basically internally by myself. I had Elijah. Elijah was great, don't get me wrong. But like when he wasn't around, it was just me. And I had to deal with my own things. And then not to take away from his experience, but it's different to watch someone be pregnant and actually be pregnant, especially as a man. Doctor's visits were always so stressful, and I had a poker face. I would put this poker face on, and I'd be sitting in the waiting room, and where I went to the doctor at, like my OBGYN, it wasn't just like solely an OBGYN. I went to Jefferson Hospital in Philly, which they had like a specialized team, but it was like in a general practice type of area. So when you had to go for your insurance, which I had to change my insurance back to female because they wouldn't cover pregnancy stuff for a male, and I'm sitting in the waiting room and I have to hear Miss Coleman, that's triggering. And then to sit down and they'd be like, "Oh, Mr. Coleman, I'm sorry. No, 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 it's fine." And they would be like, "They have you down here for OB." Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. And never once did anybody say, "Hey, let's put a note in his chart that says, this is a trans guy." I asked. They didn't know how to. There was no way. So it was every single trip. Miss Coleman, Miss Coleman, Miss fucking Coleman. Very triggering. Very, very triggering. I will say that the staff, they were great. They were great. When they got over the initial shock, um, they were really, really good. But there was just certain things, that I had to navigate through, and then there's the health portion of it. I found out I was pregnant, and then suddenly I was super pregnant. Like, body swelled up, my nose was across my face like this, like kicking and punching and turning and pissing all the time, and I had pubic I don't know what it's called, where like your pelvic area, like it starts to get like elasticy to prepare you for having a baby, and some people's get too elasticy, and it's super painful. So like my crotch was always hurting, but like painfully so, and I couldn't tell anybody. It was a lot of suffering in silence. Um, yeah, it wasn't. It was mentally exhausting, emotionally exhausting. And then people expect you to just be this strong person. So I wasn't really allowed the space by anyone to just be pregnant. Pregnant people go through like, mood swings and stuff. I was held to a different standard. I wasn't supposed to do that. And it would often result in me just being angry. In all honesty, one time I pulled a knife out on Elijah. I remember it. And it was like, I'm inside of my head, like, Kaden, what are you doing? But like, I was absolutely bonkers. Like, it sent me into this raging, it was crazy. And then there was the birth process. I think I talked about this before, but it was 5 days of torture. 5 days of being treated like a circus monkey. It was just like a barrage of medical students. It was never just my doctor. At one point, I laid there like for 4 days, just butt ass naked. And they kept saying, "Mr. Coleman, you don't want to put your gown on?" And I'd be like, "For what? Everybody's going to come and look at my business anyway. I might as well be comfortable about it." I couldn't sleep because I had sleep apnea. I would stop breathing in my sleep. My blood pressure was high, so they had me on a magnesium drip to keep my blood pressure low. But when you're on a magnesium drip, you're bedridden and you're on a liquid diet. I'm pregnant and eating fucking water ice and chicken broth. I was fucking starving and sleep deprived. And they would not listen to me. I asked for a C-section so many times. They were not trying to hear it. I remember I felt like I was losing it. Like, even sitting here thinking about it, I want to cry. It was so scary to be like trapped in your own mind, and you felt like powerless. I felt powerless. And it took for me to really like be on mental breakdown point at like 11 something January 8th and be like, y'all are either going to take this baby out or I'm going to take this baby out. But by that time, the damage was done. After I had Azalea, after they cut her out of me, I didn't feel any type of attachment to her. I wanted to be happy about it. But I remember it was like, I don't know. I can't really explain it. And it was fine when other people were around. And then I remember the first time that I got left in the hospital room with Azalea. She was laying in her little bassinet thing. I was in my bed, and I was just exhausted. And she wasn't doing anything. She was sleeping. She wasn't crying or anything. And I had a full-blown panic attack. I couldn't breathe. My heart was racing. I'm sweating. And I called the nurse, and I was like, "You have to get her out of here. You have to get her out of here." and they put her in the nursery. And I called Elijah, and he had just started a job, so he couldn't leave. He didn't have any paternity leave or anything like that. And I wanted to go outside. It was January. I didn't care. I wanted to go outside to just breathe, and they wouldn't let me out. And there was this really nice nurse that walked me around and kind of calmed me down. And then they ended up having to give me like an anxiety pill. And Elijah got there, and I was okay. But the thought of being alone with her really scared the shit out of me. Like, it was always like a full-blown panic attack. I remember my parents came down from Maryland and took us home. And when they left, I was just in there. And I knew I wasn't able to do it. I spent the first year of after I had Zay, extremely suicidal and depressed. I used to want to walk in front of the train. I spent so much time fighting depression and PTSD and anxiety. I didn't want to be around. I didn't want to be around my kid. I didn't want to be around. All I thought about was like death. It was a really, really scary place. And, you know, it took a lot of digging and a lot of self-preservation and really trying to get in touch with what I was really feeling, and therapy. I decided against antidepressant medicine and things of that nature. But I had to work really hard to get out of that space. And it took me a really long time to build a genuine, like, I always loved my child. Don't get me wrong. I always loved her. But there was this sense of detachment that that stemmed from just the entire, you know, process of her coming into this world. Yeah, it was really tough. It wasn't all, you know, dandelions and roses. It just wasn't. It wasn't. Like, I'm really sitting here and my hands are sweating. Thinking about the anxiety causes me anxiety. So, yes, I would like another kid, but I'm afraid that it'll be the same. And so I probably won't have another kid. I've talked about it with ex-lovers and things of that nature. But I don't know that I have the mental capacity to go through that a second time. And obviously, this isn't what it would be like for everyone else. This is specifically my story. This is the stuff that I didn't share before. This is what I don't know. Like, it speaks on the importance of medical professionals understanding trans people and holding a space for trans people, and understanding our bodies and verbiage and things of that nature. It would have made a hell of a difference, honestly, for me, if those things were in place while I was pregnant. So yeah, that's what it was like being a pregnant trans man. Hope you enjoyed. Share this video, subscribe, like, comment. I love interacting with y'all. Peace.